Hey guys! So in my last video I shared the best makeup of 2023. Today we're going to be revisiting my 2022 makeup favorites. I'm going to let you know which of these products are still favorites now, which ones have been replaced. Some of them, maybe they aren't favorite status anymore, but I still like them. So I'm just going to be giving you my updated thoughts on all of these products. First of all, I wanted to show you my sweater. It's a Christmas sweater, but just wait for it because you can't even see the best part. It says, "Nope. Not today." Nathan found this for me at Goodwill last year, but it actually had lights in it as well. Like inside the shirt, there were these like LED lights, which unfortunately we had to take out so that I could wash it, but I still think it's super cute. So let's get into the products. So last year, apparently I didn't do a great job narrowing down my favorites because in a lot of categories I had more than one favorite. This year I kept it to like my top 20 products of the year, so it was a little more concise, but I'm gonna try to just be as concise as possible today because I don't want this video to be 45 minutes long. These were my two foundation favorites of 2022, the LYS Triple Fix Serum Foundation and the Ilia Super Serum Skin Tint. So I was big into serum foundations last year, and these are absolutely still favorites. This year, for my 2023 favorites, by the way, I ended up only including products that I tried this year just to avoid too much repetition, but these are definitely among my top favorites in my collection still. The Ilia Skin Tint I especially love in the summertime because of how lightweight it is and also because it gives a little bit of bonus sun protection. It's got SPF 40 in it. I love it because it actually does have surprisingly good coverage for how thin it is. It really is like a serum-like texture. This is what I reach for when I want something glowy, something to even out my skin tone, but I don't want it to feel like I'm wearing makeup. This really does feel like a skincare step, and that's why I love it so much. It is very glowy though, so I will warn you of that. If you don't like glow, then you probably wouldn't enjoy this. I would still say the LYS Triple Fix Foundation is also a favorite, but sadly, I feel like in 2023, I didn't give this as much love as I should have, like for how much I do really love this foundation. I think the reason for that is because this year I've really had my heart set on finishing the Urban Decay Hydromaniac foundation, which is older. These two foundations are actually very similar. They have a really similar amount of coverage, light to medium coverage, glowy finish. They look really similar on the skin. I would say I like the LYS one a little bit better because it's a little bit friendlier to dry patches. But because I was using the Hydromaniac foundation so much this year, I just feel like I barely got to use this at all, which I guess goes to show why you really don't need to have two foundations that do basically the same thing in your collection at one time, because it means that I ended up neglecting this one. But in 2024, I really hope to get a lot more use out of this because this is a beautiful foundation. Not quite as liquidy as the Ilia foundation, a little bit more of like a traditional just liquid foundation texture, but it's very lightweight. It's another one that really doesn't look like foundation on the skin. This would still be my top pick for a light coverage, glowy foundation. I also had two concealer favorites last year, one high-end and one drugstore. The high-end one was the Urban Decay Stay Naked concealer, and the drugstore one was the NYX Bare With Me Serum Concealer, another serum product. I remember saying last year, like, wow, any base product that has the word serum in it, I'm probably going to like it. That remains true. I still love both of these. The Urban Decay one is being discontinued. I will miss it once I'm done with it, but at the same time, I don't necessarily like this one more than the NYX, and I would actually say that right now the NYX concealer is my favorite, my top favorite, even over the Urban Decay one, just because it is so hydrating. I feel like this is kind of like the LYS foundation in concealer form. Like they look really similar, the way they sit on the skin is really similar. I like this because it's not very prone to a lot of creasing. Because of how thin it is, it doesn't look obvious when it sinks into fine lines, and it actually has a really good amount of coverage. Like this is a good amount of just everyday coverage for me. I would say it's medium coverage for a concealer, so not the fullest coverage ever, but I usually will just layer it with a color corrector, and that is my favorite under eye routine. I would almost even say I like this more than I did a year ago. Like every time I use this, my love for it just grows. The Urban Decay Stay Naked one is another really great lightweight option. I still really love this. I will definitely keep it and use it up, but I wouldn't say it's as much of a favorite as it was last year. I think just because it's not quite as hydrating as the NYX one, and lately I'm just loving the more hydrating feel on my under eyes. This I would say is a good summer concealer because it's a little more of a satin matte finish and really solid like medium high coverage on this as well. I'm not as devastated that it's being discontinued now as I was when I first found out, you know? I also shared two powder favorites last year, a loose and a pressed. Can you guess what they were? Both of these I actually repurchased this year, so I used up the ones that I talked about last year and I liked them enough to repurchase. So I would definitely still say that these are both favorite holy grail status powders. I don't have a lot of powders in my collection. I usually just stick to a few that I like. And these two I liked enough to repurchase, so I think that tells you everything you need to know. Love the e.l.f. Halo Glow, especially for an under eye setting powder. It really isn't crazy glowy, but it just gives you like the tiniest bit of luminosity to your skin without having any shimmer to it. Really does feel high-end to me. And I like the new like light pink cap that it has. The old one had a black cap. I like this even better. This is the one I'm wearing on my under eyes today, and I'm wearing the CoverGirl Clean Fresh powder all over my face. I like this better than the Kosas pressed powder, than the LYS pressed powder, both high-end ones. I think this one beats those. I like that it is a little bit translucent as well, so if I want to set my cream, blush, and bronzer, I can do that, and it doesn't really take away much of the color, maybe just a tiny bit, but sometimes I want that just to tone everything down and blend everything together. That's what I like about this. So it's not a good powder if you want coverage per se, but just really great for mattifying, blurring, and setting your makeup. I feel like I get a really airbrushed look with this powder. My favorite setting spray last year, I did use up this year. This is the Makeup Revolution Fix and Glow Dewy Finish Setting Spray. I loved this setting spray. I would definitely consider purchasing it again in the future if I'm looking for a glowy setting spray. I did end up purchasing a different setting spray from Makeup Revolution, the Calming Makeup Fixing Spray, which I also feel like gives me just a little bit of glow. Not quite as much as the Fix and Glow, but lately I haven't been going for just a super glowy look like I used to. Like I'm kind of appreciating more of just a satin or even matte finish on my skin because it just makes my skin look like it's in better shape than it is. As opposed to if I'm going for something really glowy, it emphasizes any like texture, breakouts, fine lines. So I'm getting back into like less glowy things, but if you're looking for a good glowy setting spray, I definitely still highly recommend this. And honestly, I love Makeup Revolution setting sprays I've found, specifically the ones that are in these bottles. I did try the one in the metal bottle, or can, I guess you would call it. It had like the aerosol sprayer. I didn't like that one at all, but these I found really have consistent sprayers. I also have the Infinite setting spray that's in this packaging. I also really like that one. Getting into cheek products, I had 3 blush favorites last year and they were all drugstore. The first one was the Essence, the blush in the shade Befitting. I still love and highly recommend this blush. I would say these days, I guess my preferences have been changing, but I haven't been going for such a mauve-y color these days. Like I'm usually either going for something peachy or something more like a soft pink, but not so much a dusty mauve like this. But I'm sure I'll get back into this shade at some point, but I still love the formula. Like the formulation itself feels high-end. Of course, the packaging doesn't, but the product inside, like Essence makes some really, really great cheek products. I had their baked blush was in this year's favorites if you saw. This next blush I kind of feel the same way about. Like I still really like it and I'm sure I'll get back into it at some point, but I just haven't been wearing this color quite as much recently. This is the Kokie Soft Gradient Blush in the shade Bellissima. And I don't know if you remember, but this I would not shut up about for like a year straight. I was just so loving this like warm, burnt red blush color, and I still really like it. I will say these Kokie gradient blushes, they are quite pigmented. I would honestly just prefer to have one color, like one solid color. I guess I could actually just repress this, like mix both shades together and repress it so that it's one solid color, because typically when I use this, I want like an equal mix of both shades. And sometimes it's hard to get an even amount of both shades on the brush for each cheek, so you might end up with like more of the red on one cheek than the other. So I would not say this is the most user-friendly or beginner-friendly blush formula by any means, but also, like I said, I've just been going for more neutral blushes, more beigey blushes, and this is very, like a very specific color. So I wouldn't say this is a favorite right now, but I think, you know, next time I get into a red blush kind of mood, I will definitely be reaching for this again. I also had a cream blush favorite last year. This is the Milani Cheek Kiss cream blush in the shade Nude Kiss. I will say, I think having this blush in my project pan this year kind of ruined it for me. Like, I just haven't been feeling as excited about this blush ever since introducing it into my project pan. Because I really loved this blush prior to that. I think just putting it in my project pan kind of took the excitement out of this blush for me, but I feel like that's a conversation for another day. Anyway, I do still think this is a really beautiful cream blush formula, especially if you find a lot of cream blushes to be too sticky or thick. Like I'm thinking like the Tower 28 cream blush, that's a really nice cream blush, but it's kind of sticky, you know, like it's got a bit of tackiness to it. This is a bit more thin and like slippy as opposed to sticky. I really love the finish this leaves on my cheeks. Like it has the most beautiful, almost plumped up glow on the skin. I'm looking forward to using this in a lower pressure way in the new year. Like I'm not going to be doing a project pan in 2024. So I'm looking forward to just like letting myself use whatever I feel like, and I think I'll probably start to enjoy this more again. But I wouldn't say it's a top favorite right now, but I still love this formula and I highly recommend it. My bronzer favorite last year, I have found something that I like even more, and I still really love this one, but I do have a new favorite. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Bronzer in Fair. This shade is fantastic for fair skin. If you have really fair skin and you find a lot of bronzers look muddy or just too deep on you, this is amazing. Like now that I found this bronzer, I stick to bronzers that are around this depth. I don't really go much deeper than this. Maybe a couple shades deeper, because this is like as light as you could go and have it still show up on my skin. But I've gotten a lot pickier with my bronzer shades since trying this product, so I'm really thankful for this bronzer for that reason. However, if you saw my 2023 favorites, then you saw I do have a new favorite bronzer, and it's the Fenty Powder Bronzer in Into Sun. I do like this just a little bit more than the Charlotte Tilbury one, and I think it's because of a couple reasons. So similar shades, similar depths you can see, but the Fenty one is just a hair deeper than the Charlotte Tilbury one, and it also is not quite as yellow toned in comparison. Like the Fenty one almost has a little bit of a rosy warm undertone to it, and the Charlotte Tilbury one I would say has more of a golden warm undertone. So on my skin tone, I found I do prefer this more rosy shade. That being said though, I still really love the Charlotte Tilbury bronzer. Like this is a very, very close second to the Fenty, but if I had to pick a favorite between the two, it would be the Fenty. I also had a favorite cream bronzer last year. This is the e.l.f. Putty Bronzer in Feelin' Shady, really more of a contour shade. Still love and recommend this as well. I'm surprised I haven't hit pan on this yet, because there is a huge dip in here. I think I will definitely be hitting pan on this in 2024. This is a very sheer bronzer, which to me, I think makes it great for fair skin. If you haven't caught on, I really like light, I won't say barely there bronzers, because I do want it to make an impact on my skin, but I don't want it to look like I'm wearing bronzer or contour. Like that's not the goal. So that's why I love just a light sheer color. Now, if you want something pigmented, this is not it. Like this is a sheer buildable formula, so I will say that. But yes, I would say this is still a favorite. My highlighter pick last year, also still a favorite. I think this is my #1 favorite highlighter in my entire collection. It's the Novelist Skin Glazing Highlighter in the shade Privilege. The reason why I love this highlighter so much is that it does not emphasize texture. This is the only foundation. This is the only highlighter I own that I can apply to like my forehead, my nose, any part of my face where I want to add some glow. I can use this and it's not going to look overly metallic. It's not going to emphasize texture or pores or fine lines. Most highlighters, I feel like I would look insane if I put it on my forehead. Not this. And I love this because like at baseline, it's pretty subtle. Like if you just go in with a light dusting of it on your cheekbones, it's going to look really subtle. But if you build up a little bit more, you can still get a pretty intense highlighted look, but without the texture, without it looking too metallic and blinding. So yes, this is still a favorite for sure. Last year's brow favorites were both from NYX. We had the NYX Thick It Stick It Brow Gel in Cool Blonde and the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen in Blonde. The brow gel is empty. I took it out of my makeup empty spin, but I would say that this has been replaced. First of all, when I got towards the end of this, the wand completely broke off of the cap, so like the wand is down in there now. For a while there, I was still able to use it by just like squeezing the wand out and like holding it that way, but this is pretty much completely dried up now, so I retired it a long time ago. But as you can see, this is a tinted brow gel. It also has some fibers to it, which I never really felt like I noticed those in my brows, but I liked it because it was like a one-step brow. Like I could fill in my brows with this and get some really solid hold with it. But these days, I really prefer a clear brow glue along with the NYX Lift and Snatch brow pen. In fact, I still love this brow pen. I'm wearing it today, and I would say this is still a favorite. I'm assuming this is going to run out like any day now because this is the same one from last year. But this has been my go-to brow combo now, the Ardell brow glue. And then I go in with the brow pen on top of that just to fill in a little bit more. So this combo right here has been my go-to, and I don't really see myself straying from this a whole lot, but I guess now that I'm saying this, I do kind of miss having a tinted brow gel that I can use as my sole brow product if I want to, because the brow glue and the brow pen, it's 2 steps. It's a little more time consuming than just going in my brows with a gel like this. And this NYX brow gel was the first brow gel I ever found that I felt like actually filled in my brows sufficiently to where I felt satisfied with the look. A lot of times I would still go over it with the brow pen just for a little added oomph. But if I'm just like going to the grocery store or something, this was really nice to have. So I feel like this would still be good to have, or something similar to this. So I have that option of just a tinted brow gel if I want to. But honestly, since I used this up, I haven't really felt a strong need to repurchase it, but who knows, maybe I will repurchase it sometime soon. Eyeshadow. So last year was the year I discovered the Flower Chrome Crush Pressed Pigment. In this I have the shade Quartz, which is like a rose gold. Really beautiful glittery topper. I still love this. I just feel like I haven't been using it as much this year as I did last year. Last year I was using this like nonstop for a period of time there. This year, my favorite topper was the ColourPop Super Shock Shadow in Ritz, and so I feel like that was the one I was gravitating towards more often. But nothing about my opinion of this has changed. I just need to use it more because it is gorgeous. I'm actually wearing a similar product on my eyes right now. It's the Ulta Beauty Lustrous Foil Eyeshadow. These are both like a rose gold topper. I would say the Ulta one is more foiled and the Flower one is more glittery. Last year was also the year I found so many great product discoveries of 2022. And so many of these are still favorites. The e.l.f. No Budge eyeshadow sticks, I still love these. The shades I mentioned last year specifically were Magnetic Pull and Copper Chic. I would say that Copper Chic is still my favorite of the ones I've tried. I just love this for a just like medium satin brown one and done eyeshadow look. It's perfect and it's just so easy. Like you just throw it on, blend out the crease, and you're done. Magnetic Pull is a really cool toned taupe shade. This is also really beautiful. I still love these, still recommend them. This year I also tried the Hard Candy eyeshadow sticks, which I find very similar, very comparable to these. Last year I mentioned one palette in my favorites video, and it was the Flower Beauty Desert Lights palette. This is another thing where I still love this. Nothing has changed about my feelings towards this product, but I just feel like I did not give this the love that it deserves this year. If you're not familiar with the Flower Lights palettes, they actually came out with 2 new ones this year. I also bought both of those. I also feel like I have not been using them. We need to do something about that. But if you like really intense foiled shimmers, this is the palette for you. Just keep in mind there are no mattes in here. I do feel like maybe that's part of why I don't reach for these as often, is because yes, I do enjoy an all shimmer look, but most of the time I am dipping into mattes as well. And so I'm more likely to reach for a palette that has both mattes and shimmers as opposed to just shimmers, even though these are some of the prettiest shimmers in my entire collection. So that might be part of it, but anyway, I still love this, but I need to use it more. My other eyeshadow favorite of the year last year was the Lethal Cosmetics custom 12 pan that I made. I definitely used this a lot, especially at the beginning of this year, like in the early spring, was really into these colors. But looking at my palette spreadsheet where I've been logging all of my palette uses this year, I have used this 7 times this year, which is a pretty good amount. It's more than I've used the Flower Desert Lights palette. And stay tuned because I will be doing a video soon where I rank every palette in my collection by the number of uses this year. So that'll be fun. I'm really excited to see where everything lands. And I still really love this Lethal Cosmetics eyeshadow formula. These are the only shadows from them that I've tried, but I've been really impressed. Like all of the shades in here perform beautifully, especially the multi-chromes are just stunning. I do think if I were to build this palette now, I probably would do some things differently. Like I probably wouldn't have quite as much mauve-y berry shades in here because I don't know, I haven't been as obsessed with mauve as I used to be. And then this really coral shimmer shade, I probably would go with something a little bit more muted. Maybe at some point I would purchase just a couple shades to replace some of those with. And that's the thing I like about this like build your own palette is you can customize it to your heart's content. Like, you can change the order of the shades, you can pop out one shade and replace it with a different one, or if you pan a shade and it's like your favorite shade of all time, you can just buy another one of that shade and not have to buy a whole new palette. And I also really like that it looks like a real palette. Like, there's a slot for each shade as opposed to just being one giant open magnetic palette. That is just not as aesthetically pleasing to me. So yeah, I would say this is still a favorite for sure. The NYX Epicor liner sticks were my 2022 eyeliner favorite. I do still really enjoy this formula. It is one of the most long-wearing eyeliner stick formulas that I've tried. I would say of the three, like, if I were to lose these, the only one I would really want to get again would be the shade Rose Gold. I love wearing this in the lower waterline because it's brightening, but it's not quite as stark as just like a matte cream or white color. So I still like a matte cream shade in the lower waterline, but this is nice for something different. If I went with like a more shimmery look, I feel like this just ties the look together really nicely. Sometimes I'll also just use this not in the waterline but on the lower lash line for just a really soft bit of definition. And I think I might try to see if they make a brown version of this eyeliner. I think they do. If they do, I would like to get it because I don't currently have a brown pencil liner, and I am in the market for one. So this is the longest wearing formula that I found for the waterline, and just for regular eyeliner, it's great. It's really budge proof, waterproof. The colors I have here are Periwinkle Pop and Chill Blue, and these are really fun for just a pop of color. I really like these like in the springtime, but as I've said before, I don't really buy like colorful eyeliner sticks anymore, but I'm still happy to have these and use them. My mascara favorite last year was the Milani Highly Rated Anti-Gravity Mascara. This is a repurchased version. I actually just opened this a couple weeks ago, and it's interesting to have it again because I feel differently about it now than I did last year. I don't know what has changed, but I have noticed that I get some flaking with this one, whereas I never had that problem with the first tube of this that I had. Other than that, I still love it. Like, I'm wearing this on my upper lashes today, and this is great if you want some extreme volume, I would say. If you don't like a lot of volume, or if you don't like for your eyelashes to get a little bit clumpy, I would steer clear of this because it is very volumizing, but sometimes that can verge into clumpy territory if you're not careful. I love the wand because it's silicone bristles, but it has that hourglass shape that's really popular, like similar shape to like the Too Faced Better Than Sex mascara, except that it's a rubber bristle brush, which I much prefer because I just feel like it does a great job like really coating my lashes. If you're wondering how this compares to this year's mascara favorite, the Revolution 5D Lash Pow, I actually think I like the Revolution one a little bit better now, just because with this one I haven't gotten any flaking. I also find this one really volumizing, but this is a bit more of a buildable formula. So you can build this on itself like 2 to 3 coats to customize how much volume you're getting. Whereas with the Milani one, you go from 0 to 100 really fast. So sometimes if I want like a more just like fluttery natural lash look, I can get that with the Lash Pow. Or if I want the false lash look, I can put on a second or third coat and get some extreme volume. So I kind of appreciate the flexibility that the Revolution one gives me. I still love the effect of the Milani one, and honestly, if it weren't for the flaking, this would definitely still be a favorite. I don't know if I just got an old tube. I did buy this and like didn't open it for a few months. I just had it sitting, so I don't feel like that would make it dry out though, because I didn't open it until I was ready to use it, but I'm bummed about it because this is a really, really good mascara otherwise. All right, we've made it to the final category, which is lip products. All of these I would say are still favorites, but my thoughts have changed a little bit, at least on one of them. But first up, we had the e.l.f. Hydrating Core Lip Shine. These are a tinted lip balm. I've been talking about these a ton this year as well, specifically the shade Happy. I love this color. It's like just the perfect My Lips But Better shade. I just love having this with me when I'm on the go to reapply. I love these because you don't need a mirror to reapply them. They really are just like a tinted lip balm. Like, that's all they are. They don't have a ton of like glossiness to them or thickness to them. They do give a little bit of shine to your lips, but it's not like a gloss level of shine. I would say Happy is my favorite of the two. I also have the shade Cheery, which is a really fun one for the springtime. It's like a coral shade, but I love that it's not very pink at all. Like, it's more of a reddish coral. Such a juicy, fun color. Love these, highly recommend them. I know they've been out for a while, but if you like tinted balms, I definitely think this is a formula worth checking out. I also, last year, oh, this makes me sad, I had the Aether Beauty lip stains in my favorites. Sadly, in 2023, Aether Beauty went out of business and they had so many of my favorite products. They call it a lip oil and it is almost like a gel oil, kind of just a lip gloss sort of texture. This is the shade Wisdom. And then I also had the shade Influence, which is a bright pink. These also do look really beautiful on the cheeks, and they have great staying power because of the stain. So they do leave behind a stain on the lips. So they go on nice and glossy. And I like that even though they are pretty glossy and almost have like a lip oil texture, they don't get messy. They don't feather outside of my lips, which I really appreciate. I was worried that they would just because of how the texture is, but they stay in place really well. And after the glossy finish wears away, it leaves behind a long wearing stain that looks even. It doesn't look patchy or weird or dry. This really is like the ideal lip stain formula. I wish the Aether was still around because I would definitely recommend these if you're on the hunt for a lip stain. But a couple that I've tried recently that I do really like, one is the Amuse Dew tint. It's not quite the same as the Aether one. This has more of like a watery feel and it does have some shine to it, but it doesn't feel like a thick glossy shine. But the stain on this does last really well, and also once it sets down on your lips, you will get a little bit of like a clear gloss transfer, but hardly any of the color transfers. So I do think this is a really impressive lip stain formula. And then another one that I tried recently is from Kaja. This is their like Charm lip stain. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's got the cute little charms on it. This shade is a pretty light color and it's also really close to the color of my lips. So I feel like it just isn't the type of color that's going to leave much of a stain behind. But this is the shade Peach Fizz. There's that kind of like a mauvey peach. I love the color. Like I said, it's really close to the color of my lips, so I can't really tell how much of a staining effect it has. But I just watched Kelly Gooch's Best High-End Makeup of the Year, and she mentioned this. She has a different shade. It's more of like a brownish shade, and she said that that stain lasts really well on her lips. So I would guess if you went for a darker shade, you would get a better staining effect with this. And this also has kind of a watery, thin texture like the Amuse one. So I wouldn't say I've replaced the Aether ones because these are still a very specific, very special formula to me, but I have found some lip stains that I do like equally, just for different reasons. And finally, we had a lip liner favorite last year. My favorite lip liners were the Kokie lip liners. I still really like these, but I do feel like my thoughts have kind of changed recently because recently I was wearing my favorite shade Nude and I had it on my lips for a really long time. The nice thing about these is that they stay put. Like the color will last. These are the type of lip liner that like actually dry down and lock into place. So in that sense, they're really nice and long wearing. But I did notice that after I had this on my lips for probably like 5-6 hours, it was still there, but it was looking kind of dry around the edges. It was just looking kind of crusty. So yes, they're long wearing, but sometimes I feel like just because something is long wearing doesn't mean it's going to look good on your lips for a long period of time. That's only happened to me one time that I've noticed though. So maybe that was just a fluke. I do still really enjoy and recommend these. And the shade Nude is still my perfect nude. I think I still like this shade even better than the Jones Road Nudist lip pencil. They're similar, but this one's a little bit more brown, and I just love a neutral brown lip liner. This one's perfect. It doesn't pull too orange. Nude has been my go-to lip pencil for the past like 2 years, I would say now. Like most of this year, this was still my go-to. This was the one that I kept in my everyday makeup drawer because this is just the color that I reach for the most. So I would still say that these are a favorite, but I'm kind of starting to appreciate lip pencils that maybe don't lock into place quite like these do. Maybe they don't have as good of staying power, but they are a little bit more, like they fade a little bit more gracefully. So that's where we are with lip liners, but I still think these are a great like waterproof lip liner option if you're looking for one. Okay, we made it to the end. Those were all of my favorite products of 2022. Most of these I would say are still either favorites or I really like and recommend them, but some of them I did find something that I like even better. So hopefully you found this video helpful. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I do also have a Patreon and a channel membership if you're interested in supporting my channel further. Otherwise, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and I will talk to you again very soon in my next video. Bye!